This is a Sports Catastrophe production. Hey there, ho there. It's Jeff Garrett, and welcome you to another Sports Catastrophe birthday boy. And the birthday boy for today, March the 28th, was a Dallas Cowboys head coach for 9.5 seasons. Only the great Tom Landry has served longer as Dallas head coach. Anyway, this guy even played for the Cowboys as a quarterback. I know it's not Troy Aikman. Anyway, this guy, became a sports broadcaster and actually works for NBC Sports for covering USFL and Notre Dame football. So, good on him. But anyway, he is Jason Garrett, who's now 57 years old. Mrs. Garrett. Oh, girls. Anyway, so Garrett went to prep school in Ohio and was accepted to Princeton to be their quarterback. Like, Princeton, since when do Ivy League quarterbacks really do well? That's what everyone thinks. So anyway, he got accepted to Princeton on the freshman team, and then he transferred to Columbia because his dad was the head coach in 1985. Unfortunately, following his father's resignation after Columbia couldn't win a freaking game, Garrett and his brothers Judd and John transferred back to Princeton. They wouldn't play varsity in 1986, mostly because they were ineligible to transfer. So anyway, as a junior, Garrett was the starting quarterback. And Jason Garrett was the guy who helped Princeton beat Columbia and actually made Columbia the Division I record for straight from consecutive losses 35. Yeah, the streak happened. And then Garrett was the starting quarterback when Columbia beat Princeton to break the 44-game losing streak, which actually was featured in the Tim McCarver video, All New Sports, Not So Great Moments in Sports, Take 3. But he was still named Ivy League Player of the Year, and he got a degree in history with a senior thesis on the revolt of the black athlete as initiated by Harry Edwards. Anyway, Garrett finished his career doing decently for Princeton. So the 1989 NFL draft came and nobody took him. So he was signed by the Saints as an undrafted free agent, or signed to the practice squad. He was waived by the Saints and would actually go to Princeton to be a coaching assistant. And then the World League of American Football, which was supposed to give the NFL some pause, came up, and San Antonio needed a quarterback, so Garrett was the starting quarterback. Unfortunately, though, in the season opener, he suffered a right shoulder injury. He came back, but he didn't last long. Garrett was even signed after the World League season to play for Ottawa in the CFL, which was great. He was a CFL guy, but it was released in August, and I don't think he played. Yeah, he didn't really play, so he couldn't even get stuck in the CFL. Like, good grief. Anyway, Garrett was signed as a free agent by the Dallas Cowboys. It was helpful that his dad was a part of the Dallas scouting department. So, he was signed to the team's practice squad. And in preseason, he became the third string quarterback behind Troy Aikman and Hugh Millen. Yay. Anyway, Garrett would be the backup to Aikman and all that. After Aikman injured himself against the Giants, Garrett finished the game against the Giants and went 5 for 6, leading 2 touchdown passes. He was made the starter against the Cardinals and didn't do really that much. Garrett was just atrocious. And the Dallas Cowboys ended up signing Bernie Kosar, who got dumped by Cleveland because of Bill Belichick's disdain for Kosar. And Kosar guided them as the backup quarterback. And Kosar got himself a ring and all that. Well, so did Garrett, but still. However, Garrett's big playing career happened on Thanksgiving Day 1994. Aikman was hurt, and Ronnie Pete was hurt too. Ronnie Pete was the backup for Dallas at the time because Kosar moved on. Garrett would have to come off the bench to face the Packers on Thanksgiving Day in front of the whole eyes of America. And somehow, in some way, he went 15 for 26 for 311 yards and 2 second-half touchdowns to give the Cowboys a 42-31 win, giving him the NFC Offensive Player of the Week honors. By 98, he was actually promoted to the backup position. And after Aikman's broken clavicle, Garrett came in to finish the game. He would actually be 3-2 as a starter for the 98 squad. And that actually helped Dallas win the NFC East by just one game. So in 8 seasons with the Cowboys as a player, Garrett won 2 Super Bowl rings in 93 and 95. He played in 39 games, completed 165 of 294 passes, 56%, 2,042 yards, 11 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. But the Cowboys couldn't keep Garrett, and he was signed by the Giants to back up Kerry Collins. And he was released for salary cap reasons. And ended up being passed. Well, he came back to the Giants, but he was passed on the playlist by Jesse Palmer, the former Canadian quarterback. Anyway, so Garrett wasn't really playing. And then he signed with Tampa in 2004. And he couldn't, and he was basically inactive the rest of his career. So he didn't play for the Giants or the Bucks. He was on their team. So anyway, he decided to retire and become the quarterbacks coach for Miami. And then Dallas were like, well, you know what? He may have been kind of a flop as a player, but we're going to hire him to be the offensive coordinator. And he helped the Cowboys become the second best offense in the NFL. But other teams wanted him to be the head coach. Baltimore and Atlanta had a good feeling and made him enticing offers, but Garrett decided to stay with the Cowboys. And he got $3 million for it. Detroit, Denver, and St. Louis were all trying to get him, but they didn't get it. So Wade Phillips in his 4th season was 1-7, and after that he was canned, becoming the first Cowboys coach to be fired within the season. So Garrett, the next week, actually ended up beating the Giants at MetLife Field, 33-20. And then the next week, he led the Cowboys to beat the Lions, 35-19. So he finished 5-3 down the stretch for a 6-10 mark. And the Cowboys made him head coach for good. Garrett had some terrible seasons. From 11 to 13. 2014, he helped the Cowboys win 12 games and tied for the best conference record in the conference. The Cowboys looked good. But unfortunately, Dallas lost a tiebreaker, so that meant they had to host a wildcard game against Detroit. And they won 24-20. However, that game would be controversial because of how there was supposed to be a flag on a Dallas player, which would have given Detroit better advantage, but then they picked up the flag. And in the ensuing divisional round game against Green Bay, the Cowboys got bit themselves as Des Bryant allegedly did not maintain possession of the ball as he rolled to try to keep the ball away. Des was down at the 1. If he had caught the ball, Des would have been down at the 1, and maybe Dallas would have beaten Green Bay. So it was just bad luck and all that. Green Bay won that game. But Garrett got a 5-year contract. Unfortunately, Dallas only won 4 games because of Romo's fractures in his collarbone. But strange as it sounds, the 2016 Cowboys were much better, 13-3. Dak Prescott came in as quarterback, and Ezekiel Elliott was helping out. They were the number 1 team in the NFC. But Green Bay beat them on a last-second field goal by Mason Crosby after an incredible catch. I don't know who the Green Bay player was, but he made an incredible catch. I was upset because I wanted Dallas to win, but anyway. Cowboys ended up winning 9 games and missed the playoffs, but Ezekiel Elliott was gone for 6 because he violated the personal conduct policy. The Cowboys in 2018 won 7 of their last 8 games to win the NFC East, but lost the divisional round to the Rams. Anyway, after the 2019 season, Garrett's contract would not be renewed, so he was canned. He got 85 wins as the Cowboys head coach, with 67 losses. Only 2-3 in the playoffs, so not really getting to the NFC title game was hurting for him. The Giants actually hired him to be their offensive coordinator for 2020. And then November 2021, he was fired by the Giants. And it looked like he was going to be Duke's head coach. But that didn't pan out. So anyway, from 2010 to 2019, he was 85-67 with the Cowboys in the regular season, 3 division titles, but 2-3 in the playoffs. That didn't work out so well. So yeah, so Garrett is part of Notre Dame football on NBC with Jack Collinsworth. Anyway, Jason's brothers John and Judd played in the World League of American Football, and Judd was actually second team all league because he caught with the catches. John was coach of the Lafayette college football team until 2021 when he was canned. And Judd actually works in the Cowboys front office. Anyway, so Jason Garrett was a finalist for the Stanford head coaching job, but he decides to stay with NBC. And he lives in Dallas. So anyway, Jason Garrett, man, Cowboy fans will love him. Yes, he didn't have the Super Bowls of Jason Johnson, but Jimmy Johnson, what am I thinking? But 9 years with the team, second best for Dallas all time. For context, Pittsburgh, since 1969, and this is 54 years, has only had Chuck Noll, Bill Cowher, and Mike Tomlin as head coaches. Can you imagine? 3 head coaches in 54 years. That's 18 years. That's an average of 18 years per coach. And that's double Jason Garrett's tenure in Dallas. Makes you think, doesn't it? Anyway, I'm just diving to do.